That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Until Dawn, the fifth film directed by David F. Sandberg, which Sony Screen Gems is releasing April 25th, 2025.
Do I know any of David F. Sandberg's films?
I think you might have seen all of his films.
Oh.
I still appreciate his narrative feature debut, which he had a short version of prior to that, Lights Out, with Teresa Palmer, if you remember that.
Okay.
He also directed both Shazam films, which I don't know that I'll ever have the need to watch again. And then he did one of the Annabelle films, Annabelle Creation.
What is Until Dawn about? A group of friends trapped in a time loop where mysterious foes are chasing and killing them in gruesome ways must survive until dawn to escape it. What is your pull quote?
Death be not dull. The only thing less interesting than watching a clot of vapid teens being meaninglessly murdered is having to watch it on repeat in Until Dawn, a video game adaptation holding its audience in captivity, inducing mental deceleration.
Dang. Mine. With its stop-and-go pacing and plot points that go nowhere, Until Dawn may have benefited from staying more true to its source material. I've never played the video game, but I read the plot of the game, and it sounded so much more interesting than this movie.
Well, it felt, from what I understand of the video game, it's an interactive horror movie. So then by making it into cinema, which is a passive experience, you kind of have to up the ante somewhere else.
The story is very simple. So there's a lady named Melanie, a young lady, who has gone missing. So we see a year later her sister, Clover.
Played by Ella Rubin, who played the contemptuous daughter in that Anne Hathaway film, The Idea of You.
And four of her friends go on a road trip to try to retrace the steps of Clover's sister, Melanie. And I mean, you can think of so many movies that have the same plot point where they stop at a gas station and some creepy man gives them some ominous message about don't go over there. And of course they go over there, which is Glore City?
Glore Valley?
Glore Valley.
Glore.
And Glore. And they get there and immediately they're stuck in this loop. Where when night falls, they are being attacked by something trying to kill them. They get killed, and then they just keep repeating that. So it kind of feels like if you mix Groundhog's Day with like Evil Dead.
Happy Death Day.
Or that, it makes even more sense.
A character references that movie, and someone else says, well, there are more than one movie. Yeah. There's more than one movie that does that now.
So we see them like rinse and repeat, being attacked, all killed, and then waking up knowing that they had just been killed 4 times.
Kind of.
They
don't really remember details.
Well, we need to get to that. And then at the end, they realize, like, how many nights has it been? 4? And then someone says, no, it's been 13, which I'm really confused about because initially, aren't we told that only, like, the most anyone's done is 11 nights?
13.
Oh, it was 13? I swore the doctor said 11.
Another night, another day. It's always you.
But anyway, when they learn it's 13 nights, Clover's like, well, we need to do something, so I'm going to get out of here. But literally, they pretty easily stay alive until dawn. The main thing stopping it is, on the 13th night, is that one of the other ladies, whose name is Megan.
Played by Yu Jin Young, who's in Expats, the Lulu Wang series.
She gets trapped in like a padded room. So Clover needs to get the key to get her out. Well, who has the key? Dr. Hill, played by
Peter Stormare, who was also the gas station attendant, which felt very much like The Hunt. But of course, Peter Stormare did the voice of Dr. Hill, the character from the 2015 video game.
He's the psychiatrist who's kind of running this experiment, which we'll explain in a second. But Clover is able to dispatch Dr. Hill long enough to get the key to open the padded room.
Well, he explodes.
But I'm not clear. I'm assuming that he also is affected by dying and coming back. He's just gone long enough for her to get the key, unlock Megan. All of them get to safety as soon as there's a timer, like what do you call it? The sands of time. So as soon as that runs out and daylight breaks.
Yes.
So they break the dawn.
And like Michelle Williams sings, we ain't stop until the morning light.
And they are free to leave. The end. Okay, So stop and go pacing. I do feel like for the first hour 15, well, for an hour after they get to Glore Valley, it really is just like them being chased, killed, waiting for the other ones to die, and then they wake up and do it again.
I know, because usually when you're watching stupid teens getting killed, you're like, oh, when the last one standing's done, the movie can be done and I can go on with my life. But then...
Because we know they're going to come back, it did feel a little tedious.
How many times do they have to die?
And then the plot points that go nowhere. I actually made a list because there were so many things that after the film was done, I felt very unsatisfied with.
Yes.
So let's talk about Dr. Hill. He was also the gas station attendant who warns them, like, don't go to Glore Valley.
Well, he just tells her that a lot of people go missing up here, and it seems to happen down the street at Glore Valley. So Clover's like, I know where my sister is.
So what's up with Glore Valley? That used to be a mining town, and there was a big accident, like an explosion that caused the entire city to like cave in on itself. So
I guess they didn't have a bird, huh?
a psychiatrist was brought in to help the residents and survivors deal with the trauma. But then Dr. Hill explains that it's the trauma of what happened that is causing this sort of like time, like this murderous time loop.
I feel like most cities in America would have the same thing.
So whatever, that's the story, so that's what it is. But early on, Dr. Hill is available to them, like, because he's in like a psychiatric hospital and he has like a PA system and he's talking to the 5 people who are in like the Glore Valley Welcome Center. And so he's talking to them and he's giving them quite a bit of information. And one of the first things he says is to Clover, he tells her, you don't survive by standing still. So I thought, oh, there must be something to that. Like maybe maybe the secret to getting out is you need to take the path that you are afraid of or something, which she kind of ultimately does. There is this hallway that they see initially and this movie also reminded me of Clown in a Cornfield.
Yes.
I don't know what I want to call it.
Clown in a Cornfield. Also Robert Frost's The Road Less Traveled.
Well, because in that movie, someone sees something scary and goes, nope. Well, in this movie, one of the characters sees a long hallway and basically says, nope. So in the end, Clover goes, well, I'm going to go through this hallway. But ultimately, it's not her being on the move that saves her. They just kind of fight back against the things trying to kill him.
Yeah.
I was very unsatisfied with how they stay alive until dawn. Because it feels like y'all could have done that night 1. Well, maybe night 2, because night 1 you were petrified.
Sure.
But night 2, it's like, those creatures that they defeated weren't that difficult, it seems.
No, and if they really were as tightly knit group of friends as they were, I think they would have rallied together immediately.
Also, like, they drove me crazy that none of these 5 characters ever, at least as far as the audience knows, they're never talking to each other like, how did you die last night? How did you die? Maybe we can figure out a pattern. Maybe there's something to it. They don't ever, the only mention we get is that a couple times, one will have seen the other die. Mm-hmm. And so they just say, well, I saw you die. Okay, well, can we do something with this information? Can we write it down and find something that's a loophole?
And the details that we do get about their interconnectedness are superficial at best, because there's Max, played by an actor named Michael Cimino, which drives me crazy because there's going to be a whole generation of people that think Michael Cimino is this person instead of the amazing director of The Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate. Anyway, I don't know why somebody didn't say you should have a different last name or first name. Max broke up with Clover. I would have loved if his name was Crimson, speaking of names. Anyway, so he's trying to curry favor with her, kind of, and that's all really annoying.
Like his allegiance to her feels like a lot.
And then Nina, played by Odessa Zion, who was in the Hellraiser. She played a similar mess in the Hellraiser film.
That's right. Yeah, that is her.
She has a new boyfriend named Abe, played by Belmont Cameli, who you can see in the Alto Nights recently. And he probably, Belmont Cameli probably is served best, but he's kind of minor comedic relief. But they make a point that she dates a lot and is bisexual, and that he has only been with her 3 months, and she takes a pickaxe to his back at one point during one of their revolutions, like trying to hasten the
We
death
need to
of that
talk
man.
about that because I don't understand their logic of why they all think they need to die together and stay like. Are they doing that because they think like
They all
either
have
they
to
all get
survive the night.
saved or none?
I mean, that's a big gamble, you know. They all know that if they do die, the clock starts over again. So that's
No one ever says like, well, maybe some can survive and then maybe get help, or I mean, they don't ever talk about it. It's just like, nope, all of us either die or all of us are saved.
I,
At one point, Dr. Hill says, well, how about this? 4 of you can live if one of you sacrifices yourself. And Abe goes, well, let's hear him out. And they go, no, do you want to be the one who sacrifices yourself? And he says, well, no. But then, as the audience, we know that Clover, the main girl, she attempted suicide twice after her sister went missing.
apparently,
Now, I would have fully said, honey, you already tried to die twice. I mean, why don't you just volunteer?
you can
Like,
just go be with your sister in this weird
yeah,
little
go
realm.
be with her.
I don't know. And we do get to meet what's her name? Melanie. She's not doing well.
Okay, so these people do end up finding a VHS cassette. I think it's Max's character.
Yeah.
He finds 2 VHS cassettes, and he's like, well, let's try to find clues. I do agree, Abe is the best part of the movie because he's kind of funny.
Kind of reminded me of Violet Chachki out of Drag.
Oh, sure. But so Max finds 2 VHS cassettes, and Abe's like, why don't we try to find things to help defend ourselves? And Max says, no, we need to find clues. So he puts in the first VHS cassette, and it's pornography. And then he's like, oh, well, let me try this other tape. He puts in the other tape, and it's fully like, it reminded me of The Ring when we see the
Samara.
footage of Samara in the mental hospital.
And the horse and the...
But it's this resident of the city who's now in like a padded room. And we get this full explanation of like, people who go through this loop. I swear the doctor said 11 nights, that he's never had anyone go longer than 11 nights because the fear of it all eats away at them. And then they turn into a Wendigo. And then we never hear about that again. I know Wendigo is kind of like a generic thing that's used in a lot of movies, but
You're like an indigenous spirit.
symbol, yeah. But what drove me crazy is, again, whether I swear it's 11 nights or it's 13 nights, it's made clear that over the course of the 13 nights or 11 nights, you start to deteriorate based on your fear. And we do see, I think of all the characters, well, first Megan starts to deteriorate first because she starts losing her hair, and then Max, his fingernails start to get weird, and then Abe, on the 13th night, he still looks like this handsome young man, except that now some of his vertebrae are poking out. But I don't understand how that makes sense because the video we saw of that man, he looked like a full-on monster by like night 11. So how come none of these kids are doing that? They're scared. I don't the other plot line that I feel like makes no sense is to say that it's your fear that's causing this.
Well, specifically Clover's.
And then at the end, the doctor says, oh, all the different ways that you guys are being killed, like I don't often see that because it's really based on you, Clover. Okay, so was this entire thing like she had control?
And notably, Melanie's name is in the guest book, and they can tell that they've spent so many nights because each time the night starts over, someone writes their name. And it's Nina is the only one writing her name. And then they can become less legible as the nights go on, as apparently fear takes over. That's not really explained. But also, shouldn't each one of them get a crack at writing their name in the book? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Another plotline that I feel like kind of went nowhere is the character Megan. When we first meet her, she claims to be psychic. And then she tries to hold like a mini little seance in front of the gas station, and they almost get hit by an RV. And then they're mad even though they were standing in the middle of the street. Then when I think it's right before they find the video cassettes, she has a sort of premonition that leads to her pointing to all these missing posters. And then all of the missing people are talking through her like she's some sort of medium. Then she has another premonition where she discovers where the doctor's hiding because she points to like a spot and there's a map, and then they realize, oh, he's here on the map. But then that doesn't seem to serve her.
She levitates.
But like I don't understand, like in the end it didn't really serve her that well.
She also gets the most vicious death.
Yeah, she gets her head bashed in.
Like of all the multiple deaths, like hers right in front of her little friend. It's like, ooh.
I will say my
traumatized
complaint
me.
of Clown in a Cornfield is that the deaths weren't that, for being a slasher film, they weren't that inspiring. I do think the kills in this one, this film looks better. The kills are more cool.
Sure.
There's a sequence on the last night because they realized like, oh, no one has had more than 13 signatures. So we're probably going to die tonight for real if we don't figure something out. And then all of a sudden Abe goes, wait, didn't I take a bunch of video? And then we get a little montage of all the video he took. And I actually thought that that little 3-minute segment
Was more interesting than...
was more interesting than the entire film. And that kind of had the energy I wanted. I was expecting this movie, because I'm not a video game player, but when I think about video games, especially modern video games, if they're not like really sort of like cerebral, long play type things, then I expect them to be really high octane. And this movie is like stop and go, stop and go.
Very lax. Like I've also felt antsy watching this. Like, oh, when is the last death gonna happen? Can it just?
Well, one of the characters says, "Is this just going to keep happening?" And I thought that's how I'm feeling sitting here in this theater.
It's a very Sisyphean film. It was shot by Maxime Alexandre, who Alexandre Aja likes to use. He lends Crawl, for instance, and Oxygen, and Sandberg has used him before. So I think it looks fine, and you get Benjamin Wallfish, who I think is a pretty decent composer. These characters are so inert, and I never want to see them again.
The way the doctor ends up being dispatched in the end really bothered me because we see earlier on that the drinking water or any water in this world will cause them to explode. Mm-hmm. So one night they all drink from the tap and they all explode, which was funny. It reminded me of Frankenhooker.
I wrote that down too.
That
yes.
hotel scene.
Frankenhooker's much better though.
Yes. And then Max comes face to face with the missing sister Melanie, but now she's a monster. And then we need to get back to why they keep killing themselves. He kills himself by drinking some water. Mm-hmm. And then the way Clover is able to kill Dr. Hill in order to get the key to unlock Megan from the padded room is water is dripping all over the room. Uh-huh. And so she pushes his coffee cup so he gets a couple drops and then he drinks it. I just thought that was so lame because the doctor has all these surveillance cameras watching them. Uh-huh. And he acknowledges that they were exploding from the drinking water. Why would you have your open cup of coffee in an office where water is falling everywhere?
Where'd he get the water for the coffee?
Or that. That drove me crazy. But can we talk about, I guess lastly, these kids, I'm calling them kids because they're younger than I am.
They're children.
These kids, they have they're not communicating about what's happening, are there patterns. The only thing we know for sure is that they keep saying we all have to die together. I didn't understand that logic. Of like why if one dies then they all need to reset.
See, would have been more interesting if they leaned into how there's a symbiotic or codependent psychosis that goes on between some groups of teenagers.
They could have done a lot more.
They could have done a lot more. Yeah, when Nina pickaxes her boyfriend because he offensively did something against Clover, her best friend in the whole wide world, it's like, God, you're trash. That was my thought. Like, oh, I can't stand you. But there's also that element of like, if you have to survive the night, which is House on Haunted Hill, William Castle film, where all those strangers meet if they don't get scared to death through the night, they'll get $1 million at come daytime.
Also, some of the descriptions of the film made it seem like, oh, with every night that goes by, the kills get more and more gruesome. I didn't get that sense.
No.
I also didn't get the sense that like the sense of urgency, like the 4 nights that we actually see them deal with this, it's never like, oh, you almost made it, or
there's no dread.
No, I'm just waiting for like, oh, well, are they gonna stay alive until dawn or not? And they do. The end.
And then we get a final shot of there's a new traumatized location that will be set up for the sequel, based on the surveillance footage on the cameras that we see.
Oh, so there will be a sequel.
I'm assuming that's why you had that shot at the end of the film.
Oh, well, I assumed that was a given because it's a new car pulling up. So I assumed whomever pulled up in that car is going to be a victim.
Because also Peter Stormare says something about it's the perfect melding of traumatized locations and traumatized people that are attracted to it, and how the chemical reaction between those things.
I don't know that this premise makes a lot of sense. Not unlike Happy Death Day, and then the second one was kind of like, oh, I don't know how much juice can you squeeze out of this?
Exactly.
It does make more sense to me that it would be a video game. Either way, what would you give Until Dawn?
1.5.
I mean, I think on an airplane, this could be satisfactory, but I had a hard time sitting through it. I would give it 2 out of 5.
I mean, I'm tired of boring people.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.